when it comes to ranking figures, there's a lot of criteria that go into it. And there's different ranking systems based on different lines of figures. When it comes to vintage, a lot of people rank those figures based on fond childhood memories. Not necessarily the best sculpts, but what figures they had the fondest memories of playing with as kids. When it comes to vintage collection figures, modern Hasbro figures, there's a whole new system in place. Today, I'm going to rank the top 10 vintage collection figures. Stay tuned, that's coming up next. Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to another video from All Things Star Wars Considered. As always, I'm your host Doug, and today we're going to do another top 10. Now, the last top 10 we did was sometime around the end of May, and it was a Kenner top 10. Now, the top 10 we're going to do today is going to be the vintage collection. Now, much different. When you're talking about Kenner as opposed to Hasbro, it's night and day, because Kenner, when you do a top 10, a lot of times it's just childhood memories, nostalgia. You know, what figure did you have the most fond memories playing with of as a kid? That makes your top 10. When we're talking about modern Hasbro figures, we're not going to be talking about nostalgia there, because it's just based on what's the best figure on the market, what's the best sculpt, what has the most articulation, what's going to look the best in a diorama. So it's the last one was a lot to do with being subjective. This is really based more on, you know, what's the best bang for your buck? What's the best figure that's going to look the best in a diorama? So this is going to look a lot different. You know what's not going to make it? The Jawa. In my first top 10, the Jawa and R2 were number 1 and 2. Neither one of those guys are going to make it into this top 10. So I've already kind of spoiled it for some of you guys. But stick around, because number 10 is coming up next. Before we get started, I'm going to make a slight change. I've decided that 10 is just not enough, so I'm going to add 2 honorable mentions. So I did say number 10 was coming up next, but let's kind of revamp that. We're going to do 2 honorable mentions, and those are coming up next. So stay tuned for that. Okay, here's our first honorable mention. Now, initially, when I started compiling this list, I had Dengar in the top 10. Then Princess Leia came out, and she bumped him. So the reason she bumped him is she's a main. Dengar was not the most exciting character. He was kind of a boring bounty hunter. They really had no backstory to the character, and never really developed one. If you read some of the expanded universe stuff, Dengar is actually a pretty cool character when you really get to know him, but they just never developed him on screen. So because of that, that's why he kind of slipped out of the top 10. But I mean, it's a great action figure. I didn't open this one because I had a Dengar already opened from, I think, the Saga or Legacy or whatever that particular Dengar came out. Then this one came out, and I picked this one up, and I just decided that I didn't need to open this one. This one's actually quite valuable on the secondary market. So if you see this figure less than $100, I'd suggest picking it up. Maybe they'll re-release him someday, but as for right now, he stays in honorable mention. Okay, our second honorable mention is Han Solo Endor. Now, I wanted to get a Han Solo figure into the top 10. And as I really started to break them down, I just really couldn't come up with any that I really thought blew me away. The Carbonite one's not good. The Bespin one, they've put out a couple of times. I don't like the head sculpt on it. There's a Yavin one with the metal on it. And I kind of like that head sculpt, but it's too big. It kind of looks like oversized. I believe that next year in 2025, as the whole Return to Tatooine campaign starts to unfold, I believe that Solo will come out, and I believe he will crack the top 10 at that point. But for as of right now, this is the only entry of Han Solo in the top 10, and he's not even in the top 10. He's an honorable mention, like number 11. So, sorry. The reason that he didn't crack the top 10 is because he's got a 5 head. Not a 4 head, a 5 head. And I have seen somebody on the internet that actually removed the hair, did a little bit of filing down on the top part of the head, and was able to get the hair to sit down a little lower to eliminate that 5 head. When I saw that, I went, wow, that would have propelled him into the top 10. And maybe someday I'll open this figure and do just that. But as for right now, he's still carded because I'm using my Han Solo trench coat and all my Endor dioramas. So, yeah, he stays carded. The rest will be shown out of their plastic prison. Cardboard and plastic prison. So stay tuned. The top 10's coming up next. Okay, number 10 is Lando Calrissian. Now, obviously, when I did my Kenner top 10, Lando Skiffguard was in the top 10 there. That's for different reasons. Like I said, everything is a lot different when we're talking modern figures. Is the Lando Skiffguard figure a good figure? Oh, yeah, it's great. But it can't compare to this Empire Strikes Back Lando. I mean, look at the head sculpt on this figure. I mean, is that Billy D. Williams or what? He's got loads of articulation. The soft goods cape with that gold inlay inside. It's just fantastic. I mean, let's flip them just so you can kind of see the back side of them. I mean, that's Lando, you know. Yeah, fantastic figure. I love him. I'm glad to add him to my top 10. He is number 10. Number 9, Yoda. I thought Yoda would have gone higher. Obviously, he went pretty high on my Kenner list. I think he was number 3. And I said that if the Jawa wasn't my favorite figure and R2 wasn't my first figure, he would have probably been number 1. I wanted Yoda to go higher, and I think this is an amazing sculpt. But there's just too many great figures in front of him. So he definitely deserves to be in the top 10. He's got an amazing portrait. He's got the cloth good robes. It's tattered. I don't love the fabric on it, but he's got his belt. He's got this little cool backpack that clips onto Luke, and he sits in there great. It's a little bulky, but it's still a nice little accessory for a very small figure. So, and it comes with a Geimer stick. I didn't have it available when I was pulling him out of my diorama, so, but in any event, it doesn't matter. Yoda, number 9. Okay, number 8 is the Imperial Stormtrooper. Now, this is an amazing figure. They actually put this figure out initially on a Rogue One card. Then they kind of revamped it slightly for the carbon freezing chamber playset. And then they finally put him on a New Hope card back because the original New Hope vintage collection Stormtrooper was poor. It was a poor figure. This is the definitive version of the Imperial Stormtrooper. It looks spot on. You put him in any display, anything, and it looks like a scene right out of the movie. This is an amazing figure. I'm glad he was able to crack the top 10 because obviously when I did my Kenner review, he was an honorable mention. So, not this one. This baby's in at number 8. In at number 7 is Princess Leia Organa from A New Hope. Now, I compiled this list, this vintage collection list, several months ago when I was shooting the Kenner Top 10. And at the time, I actually left a space blank because I anticipated that this figure was going to be able to jump into the top 10 right out of the gate. I was not wrong in my assumption. This figure had been due out. I knew it was coming, so I was prepared, and sure enough, it does make the top 10 at number 7. Here's another great feature. This hood actually pops on the figure, and when you flip it around, it looks seamless. It doesn't look like it's an add-on. So it works without it and it works with it. She comes with this signature blaster. She also comes with the Stormtrooper blaster, and I'm glad that Princess Leia has cracked the top 10 in at number 7. And one final thing, the soft goods have been eliminated for this figure, and in this case, I think it works. And her features on the portrait are very soft. She's strong and determined like the senator that she was, the princess that she was, but yet she's pretty enough. Carrie Fisher was a very pretty actress, so they kind of took like a half and half on this. They created soft features for her, but they also made her look strong, which is what you want in this particular action figure. So Princess Leia in at number 7. In at number 6 is Wicket W. Warrock, the Ewok that befriends Princess Leia when her speeder bike crashes on the home world of Endor. Now, the texturing on the fur on this figure is amazing. I mean, it's an all plastic figure, but it actually looks like actual fur because they've just done such a nice job in the texturing of that. Now, another great feature, the cowl. The cowl is molded out of obviously like a rubbery plastic, but it really has this leathery look to it. So it's toned down. It's not bright. It's kind of got this matte finish to it. So it really looks like actual distressed leather, weathered leather. So yeah, and the face, the eyes, they have life to them. The mouth, the teeth around his mouth, that white kind of fur that kind of is mixed in with the darker tones. It just makes this face pop. This figure looks great in an Endor diorama. Some people love the Ewoks, some people hate them, but you can't deny that this is not a great figure, because it absolutely is. In at number 6, Wicket W. Warrock. Our top 10 continues. We're halfway there. In at number 5 is Darth Vader. Now, I believe this one might be Dark Times, but I know this figure has been re-released a bunch of times. They're getting every penny they can out of that sculpt, and you want to know something? They should, because this is an amazing figure. It started out with Rogue One or Dark Times. I think Rogue One was the first one. I could be wrong. But this figure has been released a bunch of times. It's been released New Hope. It's been released Death Star 2. It's been released in the Obi-Wan Kenobi line. And it's been released under the Rogue One banner. But it is amazing. The portrait is great on this figure. Looks just like the most iconic villain in film history. Comes with his lightsaber, which is ignited and both not ignited. It's got a cloth goods robe. It's got a cloth goods skirt. And sometimes cloth works on these figures. Sometimes it don't. Like I said with the Leia, the cloth doesn't work. On Vader, this one works. And they have found the perfect fabric. The drape on the outer cape is great. The inner robe with skirt, that looks amazing as well. The articulation is second to none. The chest boxes look great. The shoulder pads with the silver accents look is amazing as well. What a great portrait. If you need a Darth Vader for any diorama, you will not be disappointed with this figure. In at number 5, Darth Vader. Okay, in at number 4, Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight outfit. Now, as a kid, the Luke Jedi figure was one of my favorites. I liked it almost as much as my Bestman fatigues. But Luke was obviously my favorite character as a kid. So when I saw this figure, I was just blown away. I mean, the portrait on this figure, I mean, they captured Mark Hamill to a T. in Return of the Jedi. Now, next year they'll be coming out with A New Hope, Farm Boy Luke. Preliminary photos don't look too bad. We'll have to see it in person, but all indications that's going to be an amazing figure. But for right now, this Return of the Jedi Mark Hamill Luke figure is like unsurpassed. I mean, this thing, it looks amazing. The thing I really like about it is the soft goods robe. I've not been too happy with cloaks on these figures. They're too bulky. They don't like sit well, but for some reason they did a really nice job with this cape. It sits great around his head. It doesn't look overdone. You know, from the back it looks great. If you actually pull it off his head and just let it sit like that, looks great as well. I mean, in this, any diorama you put this figure in, it looks amazing. So whether you're using it in your Palace diorama or whether you're using it in your Death Star 2 diorama, it's going to work. So in at number 4 is Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight. Okay, we're making our way to number 1. In at number 3, Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett. Now, not to be confused with Empire Strikes Back VC09 Boba Fett. That figure is inferior compared to this particular rendition of our favorite bounty hunter. Now, when I did my top 10 Kenner back in May, I put Boba Fett at number 10. The reason being was that he didn't age well. He had come out in 79 and did not age well by 85. If they had taken that sculpt and revamped it like Stan Solo did and created a Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, then that figure would have ranked higher back then when I was doing my top 10 Kenner list. Now, Hasbro did not make that mistake, and this figure does not disappoint. From head to toe, this figure is superior. The helmet is finally correct in its scaling. It actually looks like a person wearing a helmet, as opposed to other ones where the helmet didn't even look to scale with the body. This one is finally scale, and the weathering on it, perfect. Go down, he's got the cloth goods cape. That's the army green color, perfect. He's got the red gauntlets. He's got the blaster rifle, which looks great in his hands. The armor, weathered perfectly, flawlessly. All the little insignias on the armor, perfect. The dragon on the shoulder pauldron, perfect. The girth belt, the ammo belts, the knee armor, all perfect. And the stance is fantastic. When you put this figure into a Return of the Jedi diorama, it does not disappoint. So I am thrilled to add this to my top 3. In at number 3, Boba Fett, the Vintage Collection 186. Okay, in at number 2 is Salt Murray, better known as Yakface. And maybe this entry will surprise some people, maybe it'll upset some. Maybe they want main characters as number 1, number 2. But I'm not going on nostalgia here. I'm just going on sculpt. I'm going on articulation. I'm going on how close this figure matches its on-screen companion. How close are they? Can you take this figure, put it in a diorama with proper lighting and a good camera, take a photo of it, and have it look like it's a still out of the movie? And I really, truly feel that this Yakface figure checks that box. I think you can take a picture of this figure in a diorama and will confuse people into thinking that it's an actual movie still. Now, he's got amazing articulation. I made a joke in an earlier video about him being able to do the limbo. And I want to say that I saw a review of him online, and somebody actually had this figure in a variety of poses. And it's crazy that a character like this can do all those poses, because Yakface basically just stood there. So you don't really need him to. But you know what? If you want him to, he can. I love the cloth goods robe. I love the detail in the face, in the whiskers, and I've made a joke about this in the past. it actually looks like his nose is running. Like it seems like there's snot on his nose. When you really get up close and personal with this figure, the nose is wet, or it looks wet. That's how good the paint apps are on this particular figure. So, when you see this in a Jabba's Palace diorama or on the Bodge, you can't look away. I mean, it makes the dioramas pop. So in at number 2 is Yakface. Okay, are you guys ready for number 1? Well, here it comes. Drum roll, please. And here he is, in at number 1, the Gamoran God, or as some people say, the Gamoran God. Again, somebody will probably in the comment section correct me, because I've kind of messed up some names in the past. I always called him the Gamoran God as a kid, so it sticks with me. I used to call him Bib Fortuna, but now I've actually converted and call him Bib Fortuna. So I guess things can change. I can change. But in any event, this is the Gamoran God, and he's in at number 1. Now, some people might not agree with this. Some people might not like this. But for years, I've been saying that the Gamoran God is just the best Hasbro figure that they've ever done. I love the sculpt. I love the removable helmet. I love the fur skirt. I love that he came with 3 different weapons. He's got enough articulation for a pig guard, because that's what he is. They are big, surly. They don't have a lot of movement, but you know what? This figure has plenty of articulation for a figure that doesn't really need it. The sculpt is there. Look at the snout. Look at the mouth. The Black Series version, they had a lot more to work with, a larger scale, and I don't think they captured him. I think Hasbro captured him in the vintage collection. And I am thrilled with this figure. And I think that now that we're done with the top 10, I think we should take a look at some of these figures in action. I think that's my signature. When we're done with reviews and the like, we always show the characters in a diorama setting to show just how great they look set up amongst the other Hasbro and Kenner action figures. So let's get to that next.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. Use the Force. Yes. You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away.
Yep. Good.
Use your aggressive feelings, boy.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the top 10 vintage collection figures, voted on by yours truly. Yeah, there was no group of fans that voted on this except myself. So obviously, everybody's list will be different. I voted on that based on dioramas and which figures I thought looked the closest to their on-screen counterparts. So that's how I came up with my top 10. Obviously, everybody's is going to be different. I'm sure there's a few in there that kind of threw you for a loop, but you know what? Again, it's my list. If your list comes out, you're going to have probably a completely different top 10. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, I hope you enjoyed my top 10. I'm going to start to wrap things up. Just want to remind everybody that if they haven't done so, I ask you to hit the subscribe button so I can continue to bring you that valuable Star Wars content we've all come to know and love. If you like what you saw, give the video a like. I always say that helps the channel as well. If you have a question, a comment, some input, please leave it in the comment section, and I'll get back to each and every one of you. Want to remind everybody to have a great day. Thank everybody for watching, and we will see you on the next video. And as always, may the Force be with you.
You don't know the power of the dark side.